Hey everyone, and welcome back to MMA Alerts. Today, let's start with Dan Hooker leaking information about Israel Adesanya's next fight. The UFC hasn't officially announced a headliner for UFC 305 yet. The event will take place in Perth. For now, fans don't know what fights will happen on the August 18th card, even though the company has just over 2 months to go. One fight that a lot of fans have been waiting for news on for a long time is the one between Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. As of now, the UFC has not announced the fight, but Dan Hooker may have already told everyone about Adesanya's fight. Have a good night on my base and watch Kai and Israel fight. That is the only thing that worries me. Hooker will, of course, be looking to add to his 2-fight win streak. His most recent win was over Jalen Turner at UFC 290 in the summer. He hasn't been able to compete since then because of accidents. He has kept his number 11 spot on the UFC's official lightweight ranks, though. Local stars are likely to be booked by the UFC for the UFC 305 card, so it looks like it will be when they book Hooker for a fight on the Perth card instead of if they will. Let's look at Jon Jones fires next. Back at what Dominic Reyes says. Dominic Reyes has said that he should have been the one left with UFC gold around his waist, even though Jon Jones may have had his hand raised at UFC 247. But the fight is still one of the most debated in Jones's career, even though it was scored as a clear decision win for Jones. After his win over Dustin Jacoby at UFC Fight Night Louisville this week, Reyes went on the MMA Hour and talked about Jones' plans for the future. He also said again that he thinks Jones should have had his hand raised at UFC 247. Jones wrote several mean things about his old opponent on social media. The first one said, "What a claim to fame almost beat Jon Jones. I got so full of myself that I couldn't win another fight." Someone in the MMA community told Jones that Reyes had won his fight this past weekend. Jones wrote back, "Oh, what a nice surprise, I skipped it." Jones then wrote, "Dominic, I don't want you to ever question me or those judges when you think back on our fight. Take a good look at your own strength and heart. Not enough was done. You'll be a better player if you accept that as soon as possible." When an MMA fan shared a screenshot of the media scorecards from UFC 247 and said Jones moved up in weight to avoid a repeat, Jones replied, "Now I vacated because everyone wanted the rematch. I love how you guys tell stories. I look people in the eyes. My arms are longer. I'm bigger than everyone else. I need to pay the judge. I'm staying low. When they fight me, no one is at their best. Do not stop sending them." This was the end of his rant. He wrote, "In the end, Dominic trained for years to beat me. He said that I had always been his goal from the start. He had the chance. At the end of the fight, that man was trying to stay alive. Even though they don't like each other, the chances of them fighting again are probably very low." The next thing we'll look at is Jamal Hill's answer to Alex Pereira. They have been back and forth in the news this week, even though it's been almost 2 months since Alex Pereira beat Jamal Hill by shocking knockout at UFC 300. Hill wrote a long post on Instagram earlier this month about how the MMA community treated him after his loss to Poatan. He asked why he wasn't treated with the same respect as Glover Teixeira when he won the belt at UFC 283. Pereira then responded in an interview asking why Sweet Dreams was still talking about the fight weeks later. He joked that Hill might have just woken up from being knocked out. Since then, Hill has replied on his Instagram story by posting a picture of Pereira after Israel knocked him out and writing, "So far, no response from Pereira, but if Hill beats Carlos Ulberg later this month at UFC 303, the two could fight again later this year." Let's look at Ian next. Gary challenges Michael Page to a fight at UFC 303 that lasts 5 rounds. Ian Gary is getting ideas from Hamza Chimaev, who said that Gary should have 10 rounds of his fight with Robert Whittaker instead of 5. Now, Gary has hinted on social media that he might ask Hunter Campbell to make his fight at UFC 303 later this month with Michael Venom Page a 5-rounder instead of 3. Gary shared the idea on his Instagram story and asked people to vote on it. He also said that MVP had not yet responded. It doesn't look like the fight will go 5 rounds instead of 3, though, since the fight night is only a few weeks away. At the same time, Page has continued to poke fun at Gary since the fight was set in stone, putting together 2 videos of the Irish star. Gary once said that MVP would lose his first UFC fight to Kevin Holland. And in a different video, he ruled out a fight with the Bellator veteran. Because of this, Page might be ready to step it up and agree to a 5-round fight at the last minute. Now let's look at someone says mean things about the UFC. During his work, Sean Strickland has shown that he isn't afraid to say what he thinks, even when it's about tough topics like pay or fight. While still on the UFC roster, many fighters might be afraid to speak out against the promotion about fights or pay. But Strickland did just that before his recent UFC 302 fight with Paulo Costa. There was also a question from the media before the fight that Strickland would make the switch to BKFC in the future. This made him attack the bare-knuckle company and its fighters. After the UFC 302 show, Eddie Alvarez and Mike Perry, also a boxer for BKFC, both had words of their own to say about Strickland. When they replied, Strickland again attacked the UFC and BKFC, saying again that the LOL, it costs $10,000 to sign a guy, even though that's against the law. Most BKFC fighters get paid a lot less than that. As a UFC boxer, I fight for better pay for everyone on the team. You should do the same for your guys. While I'm on my soapbox from a poor man who became kind of a rich man, he said next, When they replied, Strickland again attacked the UFC and BKFC, saying again that the LOL, it costs $10,000 to sign a guy. Even though that's against the law, most BKFC fighters get paid a lot less than that. As a UFC boxer, I fight for better pay for everyone on the team. You should do the same for your guys. While I'm on my soapbox from a poor man who became kind of a rich man, he said next. Once you have capital, it just snowballs. It's likely that these leaders will never need to work for pay again, but they still make a lot of money, $500,000 a year at least, and put it all in their bank accounts. Fans will likely never see Strickland fight in the BKFC ring because he has made that clear. Let's change topics and look at how Daniel Cormier responded to the Aljamain Sterling scandal. A UFC docuseries that came out recently on Roku gave fans a look at how the UFC has been run over the past year. Things that would normally happen behind closed doors could be seen by people in the MMA community, like when John Jones found out how bad his chest injury really was. The series clip that has been going around though is of Aljamain Sterling and his trainer talking to Hunter Campbell about his fight with Sean O'Malley at UFC 292. Sterling and Campbell talked back and forth about the fight during the meeting. Sterling said he wished the promotion had talked to him about the fight after his UFC 288 win over Henry Cejudo, before Dana White told the media about the fight between Sterling and O'Malley at the press conference after the fight. In a new video for his YouTube account, Daniel Cormier said something. In some cases, I was called faster than I wanted and asked if I wanted to fight. I said, no, I didn't want to do that. I think John Jones beat me in 2017, maybe in July or August. Someone called me and said, hey, do you want to fight for Richie Overdue? I'd always said yes. I told him no. Sterling, for his part, talked about what happened in a video on his YouTube channel. He said that he wasn't happy with the meeting because Campbell told him he didn't have to fight O'Malley at UFC 290, 292, but that not doing so would keep him out of the ring for almost a year. After that, let's look at Conor McGregor vs. Dustin Poirier at Roast. The UFC 302 card didn't look as strong on paper as some of the other pay-per-view cards the UFC has put together in the past year. Even so, and even though many of the fights on the card went the full distance, Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier's main event was an exciting show that the MMA community has continued to praise. While the 500,000 reported pay-per-view buys hasn't been confirmed, many members of the MMA community were quick to point out that if the event really did do 500,000 buys, it would be impressive given how strong the card was. In a recent post on social media, Conor McGregor, on the other hand, was critical of the event as a whole. For example, Topology says that the last event to get over 500,000 pay-per-view purchases was UFC 269 vs. Poirier in December 2021. That show also had a title fight between Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes. McGregor has had the 5 most popular UFC pay-per-views of all time. When he fights Michael Chandler at UFC 303, he will have a chance to break another one of his own pay-per-view records. A report from Ariel Helwani on Tuesday, however, said that the UFC is once again looking for a replacement fighter for the June 29th show, putting the fight off once more. Even though the fight is still going on, Helwani wrote, it's all coming together again, but it doesn't look like we're out of the woods yet. There will be more, and soon we hope to have a clear answer either way. It's still too early to say if McGregor and Chandler will fight at UFC 303. MMA fans are angry at Conor McGregor for UFC 303. There was talk last week that Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler might not happen, so Conor went public to let fans know what was going on with the fight. Yesterday, Ariel Helwani told us that the UFC is looking for replacements. Today, he confirmed that by saying, here's what the MMA community had to say to Conor. Now, the UFC needs to put all of their efforts into making UFC 303's big event a good one. McGregor most likely wants more money that is promised. Big fights are being stolen these days, and he doesn't want to take that chance. To be honest, he deserves $80 million for a fight. That's how much AJ and Canelo get paid, and neither of them is even close to being as famous as he is. This is getting silly. The UFC and Dana White need to do something about this. It doesn't matter if they fight or not. This is all making them look bad. The UFC would be in deep trouble with their fans if they kept fans in the dark about news and then canceled this fight 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen. LMAO, I'll never buy UFC tickets again. Oh no. Without that big event, card is terrible. They need to quickly find a major event because that pay-per-view will not do well without one. It makes sense to use smoke and mirrors to keep fans from asking for returns when you book a doggish with one good fight and that fight falls through. It's a little strange that, like last time, he doesn't name anyone and doesn't give a reason. He just tells people how he, they, or whoever feels and that he's the only one saying one way or the other. What a strange thing to happen so close to fight night. I can't believe that no one has said anything about PC being canceled or what is holding up this fight. For Puerto Rico reasons, I can deal with something unclear, but nothing at all is very strange and not a good way to promote this if that's what's being tried. What people say, I am sick and tired of Conor always. This is the wackiest way I've ever seen to get people to fight. Act like it's on and off to make people guess. A group of alcoholics is the only place Ring McGregor will go. Want to see Asakura fight in the UFC. Uh-oh. Oh, Ali will always sound weird, no matter how loud he is. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for latest fight updates.